Hello, Why Not Champions, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. We are here for our live premiere of our much anticipated interview with Ed Lujan. Ed, how are you doing today?
I am doing great.
You sound great. We were in the pre-show. We were talking a little bit, and you got a busy season coming up. When you've been around it as long as you have, and you've made as many friends as you have, you got a lot of lunches coming up and dinners with friends, right?
That's correct, and they've already started.
Yeah. So, when you look at your schedule, Ed, I'm amazed. You said you had an 8 o'clock, you had a 9 o'clock. You got this meeting with us now that we started at 10:30. We're going live here at 11. And then you've got a 12 o'clock today. And then I think something right after that, right?
And a 1:15. Yep.
That's amazing. And my dad was just in the hospital, and he's a little bit younger than you. It's so we've got a lot to be thankful for. Thankful for your health. You're able to continue to that hectic schedule, even at your age.
Yep. No, I thank the Lord every day because I'm very fortunate. I'm in fairly good health. I have quite a bit of energy. I love people, and I'm around people all the time, and it's just right up my alley.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to be with us, Ed. This is a treasure. When in a few years, in about 10 years from now, Ed, when I'm not around anymore, you can tell people that you were on my show.
I will. I most certainly will.
So Ed, what's got you excited right now with the holidays coming up? This morning I shared, and we were just talking about, how I use my team. I shared the clip of you talking about delegation and, how to get 15 things done at once. Well, if you have 14 people and they do 14 things, you do what you're best at. And what are you delegating right now? What are you excited about right now?
Well, I'm honestly, Dan, I'm excited about life.
Yeah.
92 years old, and I'm still going. I'm still enjoying every minute of it. I do a lot with the National Hispanic Cultural Center,
right,
and their foundation. I've been at that one for almost 40 years.
Wow.
I thought that was something that needed to be done, so I put not all my energy into it, but a lot of my energy into it, and it's going great. One of my breakfasts this morning was with the new executive director that we just hired.
Excellent.
And so I'm just delighted with life. But I've been very, very fortunate. I do honestly believe that life is like a boomerang.
Yeah.
Okay? Things come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you help someone, generally somewhere along the line, they'll help you, even if they can't physically help you or whatever.
Right.
It does help. It does help you by them saying thank you.
Right. Or even them, sometimes you do something nice for someone and they tell others, right?
Yes.
And, you don't even realize you did something special. I was watching a video, and there was these four wealthy guys went into a restaurant, and the waitress you could tell she was a young, hardworking mom, and she had kids at home, and they could tell she was really tired. And the guy asked her, "Hey, what's the biggest tip you ever got?" And she said, "I think $100." And, they pulled their money and they gave her $1,300. And the girl started crying. For them, it was probably not, it was about $400 each, and they put it in. It was pocket change for them, but for her, it brought tears.
It was everything. It meant everything to her. And you really don't know, and you don't do it. In my mind, you don't do something because you want something from it.
Right.
Okay? You do it because that's what we're on this earth for.
And for her, it probably,
it could have been Christmas gifts for all her family.
Right.
A good Christmas dinner, a good just good holidays. You never know.
Yeah. So, Ed, we're gonna play your interview here in a few minutes. I just love your attitude, love your energy. I hope that at 92 years old, I'm able to still be Chairman Emeritus of a board of a tremendous cause like the National Hispanic Cultural Center, where you're the board Chairman Emeritus, and you're still contributing. You're still meeting with your friends, and still making a difference in the community. So, I'm thankful for you, Ed, and I'm thankful for you sharing your wisdom with our audience. So,
Thank you.
If you could, just send us off with what are some good thoughts going into the holiday season?
Well, that's it. Basically the same thoughts I've always had. Do what you can for others, because they'll doubly pay you for it in their way.
Excellent. Well, Ed, let's listen to this outstanding interview. I hope you guys will join us in the chat. If you've got any questions for Ed, for myself, you watch some of the clips, or you want to just get involved, hop on the chat and let's talk about it. Have a great Friday, everyone, and we'll see you on the next Lead Different podcast. Let's go.
Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I am so excited to introduce you guys today to my guest, and you're noticing something different. He's actually sitting right here next to me. I can put my arm on him. We're doing this. This is our first live face-to-face Lead Different podcast, and what a great guest to do this with. I'm excited to introduce you guys to Edward Lujan. He is a former chairman of the Manuel Lujan Insurance Agencies. He's the founder and former chairman of current chairman of the
Chairman Emeritus.
Chairman Emeritus. So that's, we all know what that means, of the Hispanic Cultural Center. He's been involved in that project since 1983. It is a beautiful building, a national landmark, something that we in New Mexico and in Albuquerque are very proud of. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the efforts of Mr. Edward Lujan and a bunch of people that he rallied to get that going. He's also former chairman of the State Economic Development Commission under two different governors, and a former chairman of the UNM NMSU Foundation Board, or a member of the UNM NMSU Foundation Board. And that's very important because
both UNM and MSU.
Yeah, that's very important because in New Mexico, just like in every state, you're either a Lobo or you're an Aggie. You're both. So how did you do that, Edward?
Well, I've always been a proponent of education. First of all, I went to New Mexico State. I graduated from New Mexico State in 1950, so way before you were born.
A few years.
But obviously, and I live in Albuquerque, so the University of New Mexico is here.
Right.
So I got involved in higher education. I was on the Anderson School Foundation.
Excellent.
Or the part of the foundation.
So, there's going to be a lot of times.
So, you get it all together. And I, as I said, believed in education.
Yes.
And believe in it.
And you still do. And you still support it.
Yeah. Yep. And so, from my perspective, education is education. And I try to help both of them.
I think it's, what I was going to say is, that I was going to interrupt you, and I'm glad I didn't, but I'm going to thank you a lot because I'm a graduate of the Anderson School, probably way after you were on the board. And so many people have benefited from the contributions of Edward Lujan. So with that introduction doesn't say enough. You've done so much for New Mexico, for education, for the Hispanic Cultural Center, which is a big project for you. the other thing that I want to make sure we talk about is your family. You've raised 4 wonderful kids. We met through Jerry Lujan, who's an amazing coach and a former amazing producer in the insurance business, which you came from. But you got Larry. You can't. I think you can't say that name in New Mexico, Jerry or Larry or Edward or any of the Lujan names, without people saying, "Oh, you know them." It's a very impressive legacy that you built with your kids, with Jerry, Larry, Joe, and Luann, and you've got to be incredibly proud of the great kids you've raised.
Oh, no question about it. God has blessed me so much. I had a beautiful, wonderful wife. We had 68 years of marriage. I couldn't complain of any single day that we had. My children all are successful in their own ways. And it's not just successful in business.
Right.
Business is very important. Take care of your family, but they were successful with their families.
Right.
That's, to me, your family is number one.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm extremely proud of them. I'm extremely proud of my grandchildren. They're all my youngest grandchild is now 29, so they're all grown up. My great grandchildren have 24, I think.
24 great grandchildren.
And one great.
Wow.
But they're all. I can't say enough about them.
Yeah.
About them.
Well, it says a lot about you, Edward, and the foundation that you set. So, how we met is through Jerry, but one of the other ways that we met is your involvement in a project that Jerry's involved in called the Direction Company.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they put a class together, an online webinar that people can take, a course that they can take to review Napoleon Hill's book, The Law of Success.
No question. Yeah.
And so I want you to tell us about how critical, because I've heard Jerry talk about this is something you trained your kids on. And there's no doubt that this had to have an impact on their future success.
So.
But you also were one of the first people in New Mexico, if not the first, who gave classes on it to other people.
Yeah.
So tell me about how that came about. How were you introduced to Napoleon Hill and the Law of Success?
That was an interesting process. You did. I'm very high on motivation. I always have been. I love motivational materials. I read and still read a lot of motivational. It's kind of good for the soul type of reading. But how do you motivate people? How do you do all that? And so the first thing I found was a magazine called Success Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Written by and edited by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
So I started, I got the subscription on it, and I started religiously reading that magazine I think it was either every month or every other month.
Okay.
And in that magazine, there was an advertisement on a book that he had written called The Laws of Success.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought, man, if I enjoy this magazine as much as I do,
right,
I wonder about that book,
right.
So I ordered the book. So when the book came, it was 900 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a long, and I got it and I looked at it and I said, my Lord, when am I going to have time to read 900
right. When am I going to finish it?
Yeah. But I thought, well, I paid for it. I bought the book. I paid for it. I just, at least scan it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't just at least scan it. The minute I started reading it, the more I read it, the more sense it made.
Yeah.
The more I wanted to read it. And I finally did read the whole 900 pages. And I thought that was a best book I've read on success.
Great.
The most interesting thing that book constantly says, success isn't about money.
Mm.
Success isn't about anything else but happiness.
Mm.
You have to be happy.
Right.
If you're not happy, there's something missing.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be happy every single minute of the day or anything else. But if you're not satisfied and happy,
Right.
so what is success? Success is happiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's another word for success in whatever you do. There's an article, part of an article.
The podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not
Story way. Everything in the book is stories.
Right. Makes it easier to
Yeah,
read.
yeah. And it's very interesting.
Right.
And he's talking about happiness.
Right.
And he said this story about a fellow that just couldn't find what was good for him. You know, nothing was
Right.
satisfying.
Yeah.
So he went from job to job to job to job and would quit every single job. Now he just couldn't find his way.
Looking for happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking for something that satisfied him.
Mm.
And that it would, what purpose, what satisfies me.
Right.
You know, couldn't find it. Finally went into one of these communes type thing, not a cult, but a
commune.
like, and to join it.
Mm.
Yeah. So he goes over, talks to the minister. It was a religious
Right.
thing, but and the minister tells him, well, he said, yeah, you can come in and work, but we all work here.
Right.
There isn't any free lunch.
Right.
Okay? We all work. And he said, I noticed your jobs. You just have had a lot of jobs. He said, don't know whether it'll work for you or not, but you can join us. I said, great. So he puts him in the dairy.
Okay.
Okay. He worked there for 2 weeks, came back to the minister and tells him that's not for me. Just not for me.
Right.
He said, okay. Do you have anything else I could do? Okay. He says, yeah. He says, let me put you in the cheese factory. Yeah. Goes from there to the cheese factory. He works a couple of weeks there and comes back to him. He said, not working. He puts him on the farm 2 weeks later, not working. Nothing's working.
Right.
Okay. And he says, I guess I better leave. He says, there's one other job that I have. I don't know whether it fits you or not fit, but that's the last job that I have. I said, okay. He said, they also made bricks.
Mhm.
Okay. And it comes out of the kilter.
Right.
The bricks are coming. They're put into the lot to
Right.
dry and okay.
Right.
And it's a big lot.
Right.
But the more bricks they make, pretty soon it starts filling up.
Right.
So they have to move the bricks from where they're drying
Right.
to another lot
Okay.
that they have for delivering
For distribution, right.
For distribution. He said, that's it. And he says, and I've got this the only thing I have is this old broken down wheelbarrow that you can use. Fix it but that's all I got.
Right.
So if you can't fix that wheelbarrow, you have to do them 2 bricks at a time.
Right.
But anyway, he said, I'll try it.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, he's still moving bricks. And the minister thought, wow, what's going on here? A month later, he's still moving bricks. And so finally he comes in to see him.
Yeah.
And he says, well, he says, I'm going to have to leave. And the minister says, why? He says, you haven't complained one little bit about it. You must be satisfied with what you were doing. Oh, I loved it. I was doing something that was giving,
Having an
doing
impact.
something with my life.
Right.
He said, but we ran out of bricks. So I'm gonna have to leave.
Right.
The moral of the story really was he was happy
Right.
at what he was doing.
Right.
Is that success?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's success.
Because we can define success financially. We can define success by recognition, how famous you are.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of famous people that aren't happy.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of rich people that aren't happy. There's a lot of people that have accomplished a lot of things that aren't happy.
And you accomplish what it is you want to accomplish.
Right.
Okay. What makes you tick?
Right.
What makes you successful?
Yeah. What makes you come alive? Right.
Yeah. There's a purpose, and again, I guess you can use a lot of words for success.
Yeah.
But what is your purpose in life?
Well, I have a question for you about
Okay.
that, Ed, because Jerry he quotes you a lot. And I've had a chance to hear Jerry give talks to executives or lots of different people we work with. One of the things he credits you with is teaching him the fact that you said to him, son, your gifts are not your own.
That's good.
They're to be shared. And that's so important. We all have gifts, right? And, I talk a lot about faith. And, one of the things that I tell people that I want to do is when I get to that exit interview, I want God to say, well done, good and faithful servant, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I know will be judged on is, here's the gifts I gave you, and here's what you did with them. Or here's the gifts I gave you, and here's what you did with them. Yeah. So we want to maximize our gifts.
No question.
But tell us what that quote means to you, because it obviously made a difference for your kids.
My father was really quite a mentor to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you learn. He never preached,
mm-hmm.
But there was always lessons
mm-hmm.
that he taught us. So I'll give you one example. When we were kids, he never belted us or anything. I mean, in my day, that's the way you got corrected, okay? But he never did that. Excuse me. If we did something wrong, and this I hated, but anyway, he had this big old chair that he sat and read the paper in. In those days, there was no TV or anything.
Right.
There was radio, but he had this big chair, and they had this huge footstool.
Okay.
Okay. So if we did anything wrong, you'd have to sit in that footstool, and he'd start in on, well, what did you do? Okay. And very matter of fact, what did you do? And he went on and questioned why'd you do it?
Yeah.
You know, go on. And in my mind,
Right.
I'd sit there and I said, why don't you just beat the hell out of me and be done with it?
Right.
Okay?
It would have been easier, right?
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
But the interesting at the end, there was one question that he always asked us and made us answer it. Did it serve any useful purpose? And just he wouldn't say any more. He'd answer it. I don't care what you did. That was the last question he asked. Did it serve any useful purpose?
Wow.
But it just it was an impression on us. But many things he said. But one of the things he told us always. He says the talents that the good Lord gave you aren't for you. They're to serve others.
Right.
They're to make your community a better community.
Yeah.
They're to help people that are in need. They're to serve others, not you.
Right. Yeah.
So if you haven't done that,
right,
in his mind, you're not successful.
Right.
You're not doing what the good Lord said to do, and even said and quoted that for us in the Bible. It says the Lord, they asked him, what are your commandments?
Right.
And he said the two most important commandments are to love God with all your might,
right,
and all your being, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Those are the two. Even the 10, you take the 10,
right,
and these are the two most important ones.
Right.
Okay. So all of that, and that's it weaves down
right
to where you're here. In my mind, you're here to make the world better than when you came in.
Leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
When you've certainly done that. I can tell you here, it's great to hear that it came from your father, and then you passed it on to Jerry. And you mentioned your grandkids. I haven't experienced all of them, but I've experienced Kelly, and she's amazing also.
Yes, she is.
Incredibly brilliant. Just an amazing representation for your family, as is Jerry and the rest of your kids. So you leave a lasting legacy. Tell us the story about how because you obviously gained a lot from reading Napoleon Hill's book, The Law of Success. But then you started once again, you had a gift, or maybe your gift is you were able to read this and glean the lessons from it and then share them. It's because you did that. Jerry talks about, or you talked about it in the Direction Company video about, you started doing these lunch and learns. Tell us how that went. And what year was that?
It was so impactful to me.
Yeah.
And I in my earlier life, I was a school teacher.
Okay.
But it was very impactful to me. So I started a class in my office, first of all, with my family.
Okay.
And I had a lot of them, a lot of my grandchildren were coming in.
Right.
My boys were there, and so I started a class, luncheon class. Okay. And it's on their own. it was they brought their own lunch at noon.
Right.
And that's when I told them to go through the laws of success.
Right.
These, and I would tell them, I found these to be what I needed.
Right.
Okay. And how, and in them, how do we I don't know how to say, how do we put them
Into practice. Yeah.
Okay? And so if they were that impactful to me, I hope they're somewhat impactful to you.
Right.
Okay. And so I did. My first class was with them.
Okay.
Then other employees kept hearing about it, and some of them came to me and said,
"Can we come to this class?"
Yeah, why? I finished theirs.
Right.
And could you do that for some of us?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I will. Again, here's the rules.
Right.
And it's on your time.
You got to bring your own lunch. It's on your time. Okay. And then you just taught for an hour and that's great that you had an educational background. So you knew how to create an outline and how to teach it. And I'm sure it was very impactful.
Yeah. And then what I did, it wasn't, I didn't act as a teacher in the sense that I'm teaching you something.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing I did is I got them all to vote.
Right.
And they had to read the chapter we were going to go on.
Right.
Okay. If they didn't read it, it was very difficult for them
you couldn't follow,
to participate.
Right.
Okay. But so they would read it.
Right.
And then the first part of the meeting was tell me what you got out of it. Not tell me.
Tell everyone
what you got out of it.
Right.
Yeah. And so each one got and it was a very interesting, each one got something different out of it.
Yeah.
So what went on is they learned more than just reading the book.
Right.
Because they were listening to somebody that got something different than they did.
Right.
Okay. So
yeah.
And we go through and I purposely did it. Classes were every 2 weeks.
Right.
Because you have to absorb.
Right.
Then the 2 weeks in between.
So it's 32 weeks.
Yes.
16. Yeah.
But the weeks in between.
Right.
Two things they had to do. One is they had to practice what they had just gone through.
The previous law.
Use it in their daily life. Okay. And however, and then read the next chapter.
Okay.
And so the next meeting was twofold. One was tell me quickly what you got out of the first class.
Right.
And what you didn't do.
Right. How did you implement it?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then we'll go into the second part, that chapter.
Right.
And leave. Okay. And do the same thing. Implement what you just went through. And they took 32 weeks. Yeah.
Right. So it's almost more than half a year.
Each one of them. Got a whole lot out of it. So I taught 10 classes maybe at the office. Everybody took it.
So
somewhere or another.
And Edward, how much were you charging for this? Because everybody's going to ask, how much do we charge? This is amazing.
Nothing. That was my contribution to my employer.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I did when I came here with Jerry.
Right.
And I did classes for his
clients,
contemporaries or clients.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did 4 or 5 classes, I guess, with different business people. Yep.
Yeah. And that speaks to your generosity, Edward. I mean, when we look at your record of the things that you've done, yes, you had success as the chairman of the Manuel Lujan Agencies, and you've had success in politics as the chairman of the State Economic Development Commission. But what I find in your history is you're always giving back. You always find a way to give back. And this is stuff, and coaches out there, I know you're thinking, how do we incorporate something like this? This is a great system for a book review. So you read the chapter, you implement it, and then you read the next chapter for the next time that you come back. So it's a great way to go through a book review. But today, especially in today's economy, there's a lot of coaches out there. This is a great, and there probably is a ton of value that you could attach to this. But you did it as a gift to your employees, the people you were working with, and you built a great company. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because there are 16 lessons in the law of success. And the one you spoke about on the Direction Company website was the golden rule.
Yes.
So I would love for you to share with our viewers a little bit about what you talked about with regards to the golden rule.
I use the golden rule in two ways. Okay?
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would like for them to do unto you.
Right.
There's a second part to that we always forget. Think about others as you would like for them to think about you.
Well,
it isn't just doing.
Mm.
It's that camaraderie.
Right.
It's that human nature is very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's like a boomerang. Mm. It really is. The interaction between human beings. If I respect you, mm-hmm. Chances 99% of the time, you're going to respect me.
Right.
Yeah. If I like you, 99% of the chance is you're going to like me.
Right.
But those are, I'm just giving you nothings. But if I interact with you,
yes,
you're going to interact with me.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the way the world goes around.
Right.
And it doesn't go around by itself. Mm-hmm. Okay? You're not alone in this world.
Right.
And you can't do things all by yourself.
Right.
I often would tell my boys and everybody else, and I tease myself, but I think I was correct. I'm the greatest delegator in the world.
Really?
On purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just, I want to delegate this to
right.
you and have nothing to do.
Right.
But think about it. If I have 14 very trusted people around me, then we talk about multitasking.
Right.
You can't multitask.
Right.
You can do one at a time.
Yeah. Some people call it multi-failing.
Yeah. But if you have 14 others, instead of being able to do one thing, I can do 15.
Right. Yeah.
But am I multitasking then?
No, you're doing one thing.
I'm doing mine, but I'm leading 14 others to move the same way. That's exactly what happened with our business.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't me.
It was, well,
it wasn't just me. They were, every one of them.
You gave them critical
contributing. Every one of them was one of those 14.
Yeah. You might as well have made it 15 so you could have 16, right? Each one for each of the lessons, right, Edward?
Yeah.
You probably did, subconsciously. Well, you find out what your gifts are, right? I think Jerry's very good at that. I'm sure he got it from you. You find out what your own gifts are. You find out what your own limitations are. And then you let other people that have gifts different than yours do what they're good at, because it makes them happy.
Yeah. You're not an expert at everything. Nobody, if anybody thinks they are,
they're not.
No, you can't be an expert at everything.
Well, you mentioned something in the conversation too. I think it was Ricardo Montalban that you met.
That was part of the culture. That was part of the Hispanic Cultural Center. When I got very involved in the Cultural Center, part of what was happening, and it's now changing a little bit, but it's still happening. Two things. what was happening is we were beginning to lose our culture. Okay. And not just because.
Right.
There was reason. When we went to school, this was back in the 30s and 40s. When we went to school, and in Santa Fe, for example, in our community, we spoke up. We were fortunate, and my parents were teachers, so they did teach us English,
Right.
Okay, a little,
Right.
because we'd learn it at home,
Right.
but we walked out the door, and all my buddies spoke was Spanish.
Right.
I mean, the whole community spoke Spanish.
Right.
Okay, so we were very proficient in Spanish,
Right.
in our case, and not very proficient in English. Yeah. So what happened is when we went to school, they wanted, properly so, but they went about it the wrong way. They wanted us to learn English,
Right.
and be proficient in English, not
Right.
just learn it.
Yeah.
Okay. But what they did, they put, the nuns put a rule in, and so did every school did,
Sure.
that if you spoke Spanish in the classroom or in the school grounds, remember the old rule
The ruler,
that they had rulers and
Yeah.
they hit your knuckles? That was true.
Yeah.
Okay. So we finished school and all, we
Right.
get married, we start having our kids, and then our kids started going to school. And we thought, that's not going to happen to them. They're not going to be punished for that.
Right.
So we're going to fool them. We're going to teach them English first, and then we'll teach them Spanish.
Right.
Okay. That way they won't get
That way
punished.
they won't get wrapped in the knuckles, right?
Right. Okay. What happened, and that was a big mistake on our part, that by the time we were going to teach them Spanish, they didn't need it.
Right.
The whole neighborhood. It wasn't just us.
Right.
All the parents,
Everybody spoke English.
and didn't need.
Right.
They really didn't need this.
You needed it because when you got out of school, everybody spoke
Absolutely.
Spanish.
Absolutely. We grew up with it. Okay.
Right.
But they didn't need it anymore.
Right.
And so it was very, very hard to teach them to them. I'll give you an example. My children can understand it well.
Right.
Okay, my children. But they don't speak it very much because they speak it like we like to call in Spanish, mucho.
Yeah. All mucho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't speak it very much. The problem is that when it got to their children, they couldn't teach their children Spanish.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because they couldn't speak it well themselves.
Right.
Here, and so they don't know Spanish. They don't understand it either. So what happens to the next generation?
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen is my great-grandchildren don't even know they're Hispanic.
Right.
They've got the
name.
Right?
Right.
They lost their culture.
Right.
They have no idea. And I don't care which culture it is.
Right.
If you lose your culture, you lose part of you.
Right.
Okay. So that was the first reason I got so involved.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you talked
So
about
there was a
Ricardo
story about
Montalban.
Ricardo, yeah.
Okay? So Ricardo Montalban, the actor, came to Albuquerque to speak to the Hispanic Chamber at the annual banquet. And his talk was about diversity. Yeah. He was just as good a speaker as he was an actor. I mean,
Right.
he was really. But he started his speech out and said, when I came to the United States, he said, I met a good friend. And now I want my mother to meet that friend. Yeah. And what he was really talking about until he really got started,
Right.
it wasn't connected. His friend was the United States. His mother was Mexico. Okay. So he goes through his talk and he says,
Right.
We have discrimination like everybody else does. It's different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
Here in this country, it's ethnic discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Hispanic, whether it's black, whether whoever.
Right.
There's that element of people that discriminate.
Right.
Okay. He says in Mexico at that time, we have discrimination, but it's not ethnic. It's economic.
Mm-hmm.
We have the very rich and the very poor. We don't have a middle class
Right.
at that time.
Right.
Okay. And he said, we need to correct that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started, he said, but my father used to bring us across the border. I think it was in the McAllen area or something.
Right.
Anyway. And he said, and I couldn't never understand this. He said that we'd see signs that said, Mexicans can't eat here.
Mm.
Mexicans can't sleep here.
Right.
Mexicans can't get gas here. They got to go across the tracks.
Mm.
And he said, I never could understand it. And when he started that, I thought, oh, no, don't go there. I said, really, this land, if we realize it, is the land of opportunity. It
Right.
truly was.
Right.
It is. And I said, if you start with this poor mean,
Right.
you're just putting chips on your shoulder.
Right.
And I said, and pretty soon there's enough chips there that you can't run.
Mm. You
And
can't
then
run.
you get more chips on, and then you can't walk, and you're done.
Right.
No more education, no more opportunity, no
Yeah.
more. Okay. I said, that's not. But I said, so in my mind, I was saying,
You didn't like where
Don't
the
do
speech
that.
was going.
don't do that.
Right.
But then he stopped. And he said, I'm going to tell you something, and then I'm going to repeat it once. That's all I'm going to tell you. He said, I have never been discriminated against by someone who knows me.
Mm.
And then he repeated it, and I thought, that's what the Cultural Center is all about.
Mm.
That's who we are. That's what, okay? If we begin to, I talked about the boomerang to start
Right.
with.
Right.
Okay? If I teach you my culture,
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about yours,
Mm-hmm. Right.
human nature.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we can get people to learn each other's cultures,
Yeah.
can you imagine what this world would look like?
Yeah.
Much different.
And that is so
Okay.
true.
Much different.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about the Cultural Center, it's not just for Hispanics.
Right.
It's about Hispanic culture
Right.
for everybody,
Yeah.
not just Hispanic, for everybody.
Yeah.
And if we can do our part to do that, and we try to promote that,
Right.
it's all cultures. It's not one.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
And
That's
so-
so important. I think so. Let me see if I can recap it and see if I'm understanding you, because I think what we're doing with the cultural center is we're teaching people about our culture.
That's correct.
Because if Ricardo was correct, once you know us, you can't discriminate against
You
us,
won't.
right?
You know
You're
who
much.
we are.
I mean, maybe 1%, right? But 99.9% of the
Yeah.
time, when you get to know someone, it's really hard to discriminate
Yeah,
against
yeah,
them.
it is.
So the mission became, that's what really stuck with you
Yes,
and really drove
And
your
that's what-
commitment to
that's
that.
who we are.
That is fantastic.
And we do teach Spanish,
Yeah.
and we do try to keep the culture, the language alive, because I equate the Cultural Center, and then cut me off if you need to, because I can go on. and
No,
on.
please.
I equate the culture. I equate culture,
Hmm.
anybody's culture,
Right.
like a four-legged stool. Okay? It's about its food.
Hmm.
I don't care whether it's Greek food, Hispanic food,
Right.
whatever. Okay, it's about its language.
Hmm.
It's about its history, and it's about its art.
Beautiful.
Those are the four things.
Right.
The reason I equate it to a stool,
Mhm.
four-legged stool, if you lose one,
Mhm.
which we were doing with our language,
Right.
okay, you still have three
3 legs.
parts to,
Right.
okay, to that stool. It'll wobble, but it'll stand
Right.
because it's got three.
Right.
If you lose two, it can't stand
Right.
with just the two.
Right.
So pretty soon what happens is that stool will stumble
Right.
and fall down, right?
Yeah.
And then pretty soon it's getting in people's way.
Yeah.
So you discard the stool, and pretty soon you've discarded,
So you've
Culture.
lost a culture.
you've lost culture.
You've lost the culture.
Okay.
That is so good, Edward.
And-
Thank you so much
So
for sharing that. No, here's another one, a question. And for those of you out there, this is such a great opportunity to speak to someone who has lived a great part of the 20th century, and now you're into the 21st century. Here's what I wanted to ask you about, because you were very successful in your business. But one thing you did that not a lot of people are able to do is you brought your family into the business. And here's what's really nice is when I see your family, there's harmony. Whether they're still in the business or no longer in the business, whether they were in it before the business was sold, or they're still in it today, but all four of your kids were involved.
Mhm.
And there's still harmony. You've got grandchildren and great grandchildren. I hear about the reunions. Everybody still loves grandpa, right? What's the secret to being able to bring your family into the business and maintaining that harmony?
because I mentioned to you the 14,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and mentioned to you that those 14, I didn't make the business successful.
Mm-hmm.
It's those 14.
Right.
That's just a number, but
Right.
it's those 14 that made it successful, and they made it successful together.
Mm-hmm.
There was 6 of us in the family. I had 4 kids,
Right.
and Virginia and I, okay, and that was the central theme in the family. I don't make the family great.
Right.
Virginia doesn't make the family great.
Yeah.
Larry doesn't. Luann doesn't. Jerry doesn't. Joe does. We do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no harmony between the 6,
Right.
I'm not saying that you're not going to get into arguments.
Sure.
I'm not saying you're not going to do something wrong and you're punished. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying there's harmony.
Right.
Okay. And if there isn't harmony in anything,
Mm-hmm.
there can't be connectivity.
Right.
I was involved in politics, as
Yeah.
all of us have been. But one thing my father, again, used to tell us, we were very strong
Mm-hmm.
Republicans. Okay?
Yes.
And we ran for offices and we did this and that. But he'd say, on election day,
Mm-hmm.
on election night, he said, I want you to, once the results are in and we know who won and who lost, I want you to grab that eraser, erase the blackboard, and work for the good of your community with whoever got elected.
Mm. That is great advice today.
Yes, you did. And that's what makes this world go round.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's I keep thinking about the 14, but that's
Yeah.
it's the 14 that make it.
It's the team.
Yeah,
Right.
Not
Whatever the size
14,
of your
it's the
team is.
15
Right.
that make it.
Mm-hmm.
Can make it a good world. Can make it a bad world.
Right. You know, you brought it to 16 when you added your wife in there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you two, and then the 14, that makes it 16. So
It is.
it matches
Yeah.
the 16 lessons of it.
But yeah, but everything revolves around that.
Right. You know, I want to make sure that you guys watching, I want to make sure you guys listen to that lesson, because I love that, you know, Edward's saying, yeah, you can run for office and you can disagree. One of the other things you said is it's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be disagreeable.
That's right. You can agree to disagree,
Right.
but never be disagreeable.
Right. And I think that's so important. You know, there's a lot of talk about the peaceful transfer of power, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, and whether, and I think I think if all of us take that approach, because guess what, when, you know, and let's talk about the presidential election, is one of them's going to win and one of them's going to lose.
When it's all over,
Whoever wins, let's support them, because they're going to be running our
for the
country.
good of your country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is,
It's gotten away from us a little bit, but that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
it's
no, I think that is,
again, it's the boomerang.
Yeah.
If I respect you,
right.
you're probably going to respect me, and that goes a long way in politics.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you respect me and I respect you,
Mhm.
you'll listen to what I'm going to say.
Right.
And I'll listen to what you're going to say.
Yes.
We may disagree.
Yeah.
But I'll listen.
Right.
Okay. And at some point, you come together.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And that's what we call compromise.
Yeah.
That's what life is all about.
Yeah. I agree. Edward, I want to have you address the viewers real quick, and I want you to, you know, if you had to say, give a message to all of us out there, you know, you're in your 80s, you've lived a long time.
I'm in my 90s.
You're in your 90s?
92.
92 years old, you've lived a long life. If you had one piece of advice for today's generations that are out there living, some of us very passionately, our political beliefs, what advice would you give to people that are living through this election cycle right now?
The thing that we have lost, and I'll go into what we could be. The thing that we have lost is respect for my opinion, and vice versa. When you begin to lose respect for my opinion, you're also losing respect for me. Okay? And when you lose respect, you lose that connectivity. You're not connected anymore.
Right.
You're this way. Okay?
Mhm.
That can't happen in this country, or shouldn't happen in this country. I've been to a lot of countries in my lifetime. Okay? There's nothing, honestly, there's nothing to compare to what we have here. Some that I've been to were great countries. I love visiting, you know, but they're not here. This country is unique, and what we are beginning to lose is respect, pure and simple. And you lose that.
So what advice?
You're not connected anymore.
Yeah.
What
advice would you give us, the people that are listening? What advice would you give us to get that respect back?
You have to work at it.
Yeah.
You have to like people. You have to understand that you're part of these, how many million of people do we have in this country? You're part of it.
Right.
And without you, it doesn't work. It's like, it's almost like the 14 that I told you about. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to work together.
Yeah.
To make it work. Democracy doesn't just work.
Yeah.
You have to make it work. And
Love it.
You make it work by respecting each other, and not everything that you want it's going to be done.
Right. Makes sense.
But I would rather have 40% of something than 0% of something.
Yeah.
Okay? And then if we think about that, the country itself, and whoever the president is, whoever the governor is, whoever any public official is,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're not alone.
Yeah.
If we don't help, if we don't, I'm not talking about, okay, you're now the president will do exactly what you want.
Right.
Will think the way you want.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
You can agree to disagree, but try to make it better.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Edward, what do you say we end the interview on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much. This has been a great pleasure. Guys, I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed interviewing Edward. Don't forget to follow the podcast. Don't forget to give us a like, send us your comments, and share it with your friends. This is a treasure. Edward Lujan is truly a national treasure. 92 years of wisdom, and then the hundreds of years of ancestry that he brings, and his commitment to community, to serving, and to his family is incredibly evident. I'm so glad we had this opportunity, Edward, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Butter.
Thank you, Edward.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.